Ab Story 1. On the morning of May 4, 2021, David Lertzman, an avid jogger in his early 60s, set out for what should have been a routine run along a trail near his home in Alberta. But this morning, as the sun cast long shadows over the quiet woods, something went terribly wrong. In a terrifyingly brief moment, Lertzman's peaceful run turned into a nightmare that would cost him his life. Lertzman had been jogging along a secluded section of trail, a path that wound through dense brush and towering trees, offering little in the way of visibility. The terrain was rugged, with uneven ground and steep embankments that dropped sharply into the valley below. The kind of place where the wild still ruled, and every step could be a reminder that humans were visitors, not masters. As he ran, unaware of the danger lurking nearby, the forest around him was alive with the sounds of nature. A bird's call, the wind whispering through the leaves. But what Lertzman did not hear was the low, predatory silence of a grizzly bear waiting for its moment. Wildlife experts believe the bear, a female brown bear, attacked Lertzman from behind. Whether she was drawn to the sound of his footsteps or simply happened upon him in her territory, the attack was swift and brutal. Bears, especially grizzlies, are powerful animals with instincts that make them formidable predators, and this one, no doubt startled or feeling threatened, reacted as bears often do in these circumstances, aggressively. The attack occurred so quickly that Lertzman had no chance to defend himself. The bear struck, sending him hurtling off the 300-meter embankment. The sheer force of the bear's assault, combined with the unforgiving terrain, would have sent Lertzman crashing down the steep drop, adding injury to injury. The attack, though terrifying in its swiftness, was not entirely random. Grizzly bears are territorial creatures, and while they do not typically seek out human prey, they will defend their space when threatened or surprised. In this case, the bear may have perceived Lertzman as an intruder, something to be neutralized. Wildlife officers who later investigated the scene pointed to the bear's behavior as a clear sign of territorial defense, not predation. However, for Lertzman, the encounter was nothing short of deadly. The aftermath of the attack was haunting. When the search team arrived, they found Lertzman's body at the bottom of the embankment, the result of a lethal combination of the bear's assault and the fall that followed. The scene was chilling, as if nature itself had struck down one of its own. Despite the quick response of authorities and rescuers, Lertzman's injuries were too severe. The bear, believed to have been acting defensively rather than hunting for food, had already retreated into the woods, leaving behind only the wreckage of a human life. The response to the attack was immediate. Local wildlife officials, alongside Alberta Fish and Wildlife officers, launched an extensive search to locate and neutralize the bear responsible for the killing. The area was closed off to the public as teams combed the dense forest for signs of the animal. It wasn't long before a mature grizzly bear, identified as a non-lactating female with worn teeth, was spotted nearby. DNA testing later confirmed that this was the bear responsible for Lertzman's death. As tragic as the incident was, it also sparked questions about the growing presence of grizzly bears in areas previously considered safe for human activity. While bear attacks are rare, they are not unheard of, and the increasing overlap between human settlements and bear territories is becoming a more pressing concern. With more people venturing into bear habitats for recreation, the risk of such attacks, though still low, becomes a real possibility. In Lutzman's case, the bear's apparent defensiveness serves as a stark reminder that in the wild, humans are not at the top of the food chain. The bear responsible for Lutzman's death was eventually captured and euthanized, a decision made after it was deemed too dangerous to be relocated. It was a grim but necessary action in the interest of public safety. However, the decision did not come without controversy, as some environmentalists argued that the bear was simply following its natural instincts. Despite the tragic loss, wildlife officials stressed that the bear's actions, while tragic, were not motivated by malice, but by the primal instinct to protect its territory. In the wake of Lutzman's death, friends, family, and the community were left grappling with the shocking reality of how quickly the wilderness could turn deadly. Lutzman's tragic fate serves as a cautionary tale for anyone who spends time in bear country. While the outdoors is a place of beauty and adventure, it is also a realm governed by the instincts of creatures far more powerful than we are. Story 2. On Thursday, April 15th, 2021, a wilderness guide named Charles Carl, Mach 14, was enjoying what was supposed to be a peaceful day, fishing near the Baker's Hold campground north of West Yellowstone. Carl was no stranger to the wild landscapes that surrounded Yellowstone National Park. As a seasoned guide, he had spent countless hours navigating the wilderness, working with visitors, and exploring the beauty of the untamed world. He knew the risks. He understood that in the backcountry, even the most routine activities could quickly turn dangerous, but nothing could have prepared him for the horror that would unfold that day. It was just after noon when Carl set out for a quiet stretch of fishing along the river, his rod in hand and the promise of a quiet day ahead. He had ventured away from the campground, making his way into the rugged, wild terrain of Montana's backcountry. Little did Carl know, the tranquility of the river would soon be shattered by a primal encounter. A grizzly bear, drawn to the area by the scent of a moose carcass, was about to cross his path. Grizzlies are opportunistic feeders, and when food is scarce, or when they feel threatened while feeding, their aggression levels can skyrocket. The bear, likely still ravenous, came upon Carl unexpectedly. It's believed that the bear, feeling defensive over its food source, saw Carl as an intruder, a potential threat to its prize. Carl's fishing spot was situated in dense brush, a location where visibility is limited. The bear, probably aware of Carl's presence but still feeling threatened, charged. The speed and strength of a grizzly bear in full aggression is overwhelming. Before Carl could react, the massive bear was on him, knocking him to the ground with its sheer force. Grizzly bears are known for their brutal, powerful attacks, and this one was no different. In moments, Carl's life went from peaceful to catastrophic as he fought desperately for survival against the relentless power of the bear. Wildlife officials would later speculate that the bear's actions were driven by its desire to protect the moose carcass it had been feeding on. Bears can be unpredictable when it comes to food sources, especially during the spring months, when food is less abundant. They may become highly protective of any food they've found, and this particular grizzly had already claimed the moose carcass as its own. It's possible that Carl's sudden appearance in the area close to the carcass was perceived as a threat, prompting the bear's violent defense. It wasn't long before Carl's colleagues and park rangers received word of the attack. They immediately launched a search and rescue mission, trying to reach Carl before it was too late. But by the time they arrived at the scene, Carl had already suffered severe injuries. In a desperate attempt to save him, he was airlifted to a hospital in Idaho Falls. But the injuries he sustained from the bear's attack were too severe. Despite the heroic efforts of medical teams, Carl Mock died on April 17, 2021, just 2 days after the brutal attack. The attack sent shockwaves through the community. Carl was a well-known and well-respected wilderness guide in the Yellowstone area, someone who had spent his life guiding others safely through the dangers of the wild. His sudden, violent death was a grim reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the very real dangers posed by wildlife in areas where humans and animals coexist. In the aftermath of the attack, wildlife officials immediately responded to the threat posed by the bear. Within hours of the attack, a team of park rangers and wildlife officers located the grizzly bear responsible for the mauling. The bear, likely still agitated from its previous encounter, charged at the wildlife officers as they attempted to assess the situation. In response to the charge, they were forced to shoot and kill the bear in self-defense. The bear's body was later analyzed, and it was determined that it had been a 20-year-old male grizzly bear, likely hungry and defensive after having been feeding on the moose carcass. It's also important to be aware of food sources in bear territory. Whether you're camping, fishing, or hiking, be cautious of carcasses or food left behind by animals. Grizzly bears in particular will defend their food aggressively, and an encounter near a food source can quickly escalate into a life-threatening situation. Story 3. On September 10, 2021, Daniel Pfeiffer, a seasoned hunter in his 40s, found himself in the rugged wilderness of Alaska, far from civilization. Alongside his hunting partner, Pfeiffer had embarked on a 10-day moose hunt near the Chisana River drainage, a vast and remote region known for its rugged terrain and abundant wildlife. As experienced hunters, they knew the risks that came with venturing into the wild, especially in grizzly country. They had been hunting for several days, tracking moose and setting up camp when, on that fateful day, everything would go horribly wrong. The morning had started like any other during their hunt, with the promise of a successful day ahead. The two hunters had managed to bring down a moose the day before, a hard-earned prize that would sustain them for the rest of their trip. After processing the animal and beginning the field dressing, they were focused on the task at hand, unaware that danger was lurking nearby. It's possible that the scent of the fresh kill had attracted the attention of a grizzly bear, a dangerous possibility in the wilds of Alaska, where the bears are known to roam far and wide, especially in the fall when food is abundant and bears are fattening up for the winter. Suddenly, without warning, the air was pierced by the guttural growl of a bear, closer than either man could have anticipated. A grizzly, likely drawn by the smell of the moose carcass, charged from the dense brush. Grizzly bears are unpredictable, and despite their incredible strength and size, they typically avoid human contact. However, if startled or attracted by food, they can become territorial and aggressive. The bear, likely a mature adult male, had no hesitation. Pfeiffer's hunting partner, who was nearby, described the attack as swift and brutal, a split second of chaos before Pfeiffer was brought down by the massive creature. The bear's strength was overwhelming. Pfeiffer had no time to react, no time to draw a weapon or use his bear spray. The grizzly attacked with fierce aggression, mauling him violently. Despite his hunting experience, Pfeiffer was defenseless against the bear's sheer power. His partner, frozen in fear and unable to intervene without risking his own life, watched in horror as the bear continued its relentless assault. The attack lasted only a few moments, but the damage was catastrophic. Pfeiffer's injuries were fatal. The bear, having satisfied its territorial instinct, eventually retreated back into the wilderness, leaving Pfeiffer's body behind. His hunting partner, who had been unable to defend him during the attack, was left in shock, faced with the grim reality of what had just transpired. It wasn't until hours later, after a desperate search and with the help of emergency responders, that Pfeiffer's body was recovered from the site. The authorities confirmed that the bear had attacked without provocation, driven likely by the presence of the moose carcass, a prime food source that the bear had claimed as its own. Pfeiffer's death was a tragic reminder of the inherent dangers of hunting in bear country, where the wild still reigns supreme. While Alaska's vast wilderness is a playground for hunters and adventurers, it is also home to some of the largest and most powerful animals in North America. The attack occurred in an area notorious for its large grizzly populations, and while bear attacks are rare, they are not unheard of. Pfeiffer's death would be a devastating loss, not just for his family and friends, but for the entire hunting community. A stark warning that the wilderness, while beautiful and untamed, can also be deadly. Following the attack, wildlife officers responded quickly, tracking the bear down and confirming that it was the animal responsible for Pfeiffer's death. The bear was killed by wildlife authorities after it was found lingering in the area, and its DNA was confirmed to be a match with the attack. The bear, like many others in the region, was likely in search of food to prepare for the long winter months ahead. Unfortunately for Pfeiffer, the moose carcass he and his partner had killed became a fatal attraction, leading to the bear's aggressive behavior. In the aftermath, authorities issued a cautionary message to hunters and outdoors enthusiasts. Pfeiffer's death highlighted the very real risk of hunting in bear territory, where bears are especially active during the fall as they prepare for hibernation. The presence of food, such as a moose carcass, can easily trigger a defensive response from a bear, and even experienced hunters can find themselves in perilous situations when they least expect it. One of the most important lessons from Pfeiffer's death is the need to respect the power and unpredictability of bears. Always be aware of your surroundings and understand the risks of your location. Carry bear spray and ensure it is easily accessible. Don't store it in your pack, as you may not have time to retrieve it during an attack. Be cautious when approaching carcasses or areas where animals have recently been killed, as these locations are often magnets for bears looking for an easy meal. Additionally, never hunt alone if possible. Having a partner can not only provide safety in numbers, but also give you a better chance of reacting swiftly to any potential danger. Make noise as you travel, especially in dense areas where visibility is low. This can help alert bears to your presence and give them a chance to move away before an encounter occurs. If you do see a bear, try to back away slowly without turning your back or running. Running can trigger the bear's chase instinct. Story 4. On the morning of September 2, 2020, 63-year-old Carl Schilling set out on a routine task he had done countless times before, clearing a path several miles behind his remote cabin in the wilds of Alaska. Schilling had lived a quiet, solitary life in the rugged, untamed wilderness, far from the nearest town. The cabin, nestled in a vast expanse of forest, was his sanctuary, a place where he could live on his own terms, away from the bustle of civilization. Over the years, he had learned to respect the dangers that came with living so close to nature. He knew the risks of bears in the area and carried bear spray as a precaution whenever he ventured into the wild. But even the most cautious can fall prey to the unexpected, and on that fateful day, Carl Schilling would learn just how quickly a life can be torn apart by nature's brutal force. Schilling was clearing a path, a simple enough task. He would often cut through the dense woods behind his cabin to maintain access to the surrounding terrain. The work was grueling, but necessary, as it kept the brush from overtaking his property and ensured that he could move freely through the area. On this particular morning, as the sun broke through the trees and painted the forest floor in a soft, golden light, Schilling must have felt a sense of peace. There was nothing unusual to alert him that this day would end in tragedy. However, nature has a way of turning tranquil moments into nightmares, and it's possible that Schilling, like so many others who venture into bear country, underestimated the unpredictability of the wild. Bears, particularly grizzlies, are constantly on the move in search of food, especially as the summer months draw to a close and they begin to fatten up for the long winter ahead. The scent of food, whether from the fish-filled rivers or berries growing along the trails, can attract bears from miles around. And in a remote area like the one Schilling called home, a bear could easily be wandering through the woods, unaware of or unconcerned by a human presence. What happened next remains a terrifying mystery. There were no witnesses to the attack. No one saw the bear approach, and no one could have foreseen the events that were about to unfold. Schilling was found later that day, his body discovered several miles from his cabin, lying near the path he had been clearing. The area was eerily quiet, save for the sounds of the wilderness that had unknowingly witnessed the horrific attack. When authorities arrived at the scene, they found Schilling's body and began the grim task of piecing together what had happened. The first clue came in the form of an empty canister of bear spray. It was found near Schilling's body, its contents fully discharged. This indicated that Schilling had attempted to use the spray to defend himself against the bear, likely at the very moment the attack occurred. Bear spray, a tool carried by many who venture into bear country, is proven to be effective at deterring bear attacks when used properly. But in Schilling's case, it appeared that the spray had already been emptied, leaving him vulnerable at the critical moment. The absence of any further evidence, no tracks leading to the scene, no remains of the bear, meant that investigators could not definitively determine whether the bear was still in the area. What they did know was chilling. Schilling had been killed in a surprise attack, likely from behind, when he was least expecting it. It is unclear whether he saw the bear before it struck, or whether it happened too quickly for him to react. Bears are incredibly fast, and their attacks are often swift and brutal. The fact that Schilling's body was discovered some distance from his clearing suggests that he may have been chased or dragged after the initial strike. Authorities later confirmed that a bear, most likely a grizzly, was responsible for the attack. Grizzly bears, especially mothers with cubs, can be highly protective of their territory, and an unexpected encounter with a human can provoke an aggressive response. It's possible that Schilling inadvertently stumbled too close to the bear's den or a nearby food source. Bears in the wild are not inherently aggressive toward humans, but when surprised, threatened, or provoked, they can act quickly and lethally. Schilling's death was a tragic reminder of the dangers that come with living and working in bear territory. If you found this video insightful, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for the latest videos on wildlife safety, survival tips, and fascinating animal stories. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next one.